Even after bleeding my brakes feel very spongy. And in order to fix that, I have did some steps, but however, in between all these processes, I have actually broke something up. Stay tuned to get to know. So the whole idea of making this video was to show you how spongy my brake was even after upgrading to a racing brake fluid. My lever was very spongy and I'm not able to get the feedback from the brakes, so I decided to change the master cylinder service kit entirely. If you are my regular viewers, you're already aware of how to replace your master cylinder service kit entirely and have made a dedicated video on how to do it entirely disassembling from the motorcycle. However, in this video, I'll be showing how to do it on the motorcycle itself, which can save us some time and also will have less fuss during the process. So I started off by removing the master cylinder reservoir cap and then took out the plastic cap followed by the rubber cap. Now this is a fresh brake fluid and I have already used a Motul racing brake fluid. If you have not watched the video, you can find the link in the iCard above. So after taking out the old brake fluid completely, let's start disassembling the entire master cylinder. Now this is where you notice a change. Since this is my Dominar 400 Touring Edition, these knuckle guards are actually connected to the master cylinder's lever bolts, which need to be disconnected first. So using an 8mm socket, I removed the bolt and disconnected the master cylinder entirely from the knuckle guard. Now there is a standoff stud which is working as a spacer and connects the both knuckle guard bracket to the master cylinder itself. So we need to remove that using a 10mm socket. From here on, all the process remains the same for almost all the motorcycles. Let's start removing the lever itself using a flathead screwdriver. Once the lever is out, you can slowly wiggle and take out the push rod along with the dust cap. For some motorcycles, you might also find a spring which you need to take out. Now using a circlip plier, remove the circlip which is holding the piston itself onto the master cylinder. Now you can gently take out the piston itself and making sure that you don't damage the surface of the master cylinder wall. At this time there is some brake fluid leak and be ready to cover it up using a microfiber cloth or even a plastic sheet which draped over the motorcycle. Now I have already ordered a master cylinder repair major kit and this costed 377 rupees. You can find the part number on the packet itself. Now let's start assembling the piston and its spring. Taking out both, install the smaller end of the spring onto the piston itself as shown in the video. Now using the silicone grease which has been provided, lubricate the both O-rings and the piston assembly itself as shown in the video. Now after making sure that the entire surface is free from dirt and debris, install the piston assembly kit which has been pre-lubricated into the master cylinder slot that has been provided. Now also take out the new circlip which has been already provided in the service kit and hold it with the circlip plier. Now with the help of a screwdriver, push the piston inside the master cylinder and install the circlip onto its groove that has been provided. Make sure that the circlip is actually locked in place and it is seated properly onto its groove. You can confirm this by rotating it in both the directions and the circlip should not pop out. Now finally let's take out the new push rod along with its dust cap and assemble it onto its slot as shown. Don't forget to lubricate the push rod using the silicone grease that has been provided. Install this too onto its slot and let's follow by applying a thin layer of silicone grease onto its pivot bolt and installing it onto the master cylinder as shown. Tighten the pivot bolt onto its slot using a flathead screwdriver and let's fill the entire master cylinder reservoir with the fresh brake fluid. Now I have made a dedicated video on how to bleed your brakes, so you can watch it in the iCard above and I'll skip this part in this video. Now while I was tightening the standoff stud, this happened. The stud actually got damaged. I think this is because I have tightened it too much or the stud might be already damaged in the first place. Because of this, I have ordered in new supplies and after a couple of days, this has been delivered. Starting with the stud bolt itself which we require, it comes with combo pack with the pivot bolt. And you can see the part number and the pricing for the same in the packet itself. Next, I have ordered two bolts which goes between the bracket and the stud itself. And also, I felt that the bracket is actually bent and this might have happened in the parking without my knowledge. So I thought of replacing the same and I ordered that also. Speaking of the bracket itself, I have bought two brackets, one is for left hand side and the right hand side. This is just in case if we require. Now taking out the old broken stud followed by the pivot bolt as shown in the video. Now using an Allen key, remove this one single bolt from the knuckle guard which will release the bracket completely from the motorcycle. Now speaking of the new brackets, you can see the LH and RS written on the brackets which means left and right hand side. So always use the specific bracket for your motorcycle. Now installing the new bracket, aligning it properly onto the bolt and just tighten it so that enough it is not gonna fall off. Don't completely tighten it as we need to align the bottom bolt. You can see the bracket has been installed properly, but still it is movable. Now let's take out the new stud and the pivot bolt out of its packet. And the first thing that I would like to do is replacing the pivot bolt itself. So let's remove the old one, but before that, let's apply some silicone grease onto the new pivot bolt. Now let's take out the old pivot bolt and replace it with a new one. Tighten it completely using a flathead screwdriver. Now this is the old broken stud that we removed. Now we are going to replace this with a brand new one. Just align it and tighten it using a 10mm socket and the ratchet. You can also use a ring spanner for the same. Once this is completely tightened, I'm going to use a new bolt to attach the bracket onto the master cylinder. Now this bolt is Allen key type and it also had come with a thread lock pre-installed. So aligning it properly, tighten it completely as shown. Once this is done, you can go forward and tighten this hex bolt completely down. With this, all the replacement is successfully completed and my motorcycle is good to go. I hope this video was at least useful for some people, and if you people like this video, do consider subscribing to Archeonics and follow me on Instagram for more such interesting content.